So I want to start us with thinking about relationship. And when we're thinking about relationships, part of this is because as we're working with our families, we know that we are in relationship with them. And sometimes that can be a tense relationship or it can be a really good relationship. But we ground in relationships because it's so important to all of the work, right? We're in relationship to young people, to each other as colleagues, as well as the families and communities that we serve. And we start off staff with this idea of staff well-being and recognizing the importance of relationship within staff well-being because despite all the hurdles, research points to the main source of stress leading to teacher burnout is negative teacher-student relationships. And so I want to expand that a little bit and note that it's not just negative teacher-student relationships that can put stress on our well-being in our work. It can be negative relationships broadly. And so, as promising as all of this is, we also know that relationships can serve as a buffer against teacher stress, right? When we're able to hold on to positive relationships with our colleagues, when we're able to have positive relationships with the young people we serve. And then I want to expand that for our topic and purpose for today is that when those positive relationships with family and community take place, they can be a really strong line of defense against burnout because our capacity increases, our opportunity to make impact increases, and we feel a lot more satisfaction on our day to day to know that you're coming into a space where everyone plays a role, everyone's working together and collaboratively. And we're defining these relationships as a dynamic space that lives between people. And if you've been to one of my other colleagues' sessions earlier on in the series, you may be familiar with this. But we know that relationships are dynamic, right? They're not one way consistently. They ebb and flow depending on what we're doing. And we're hoping that they tend to grow, right, as we work and build together. And it's our job to be responsible for nurturing that space in between people. That continuous process is an unlearning and a learning process about each other and about ourselves. And it can be a little bit difficult, right? I want to be completely honest that I'm not the biggest fan of change because once you fall into a routine, it makes it easy. You know what to expect, but relationships are not routine. And so as I change, as my colleagues change, right, I need to be able to be willing to learn, to ask questions, and to remain curious in a way that can be impactful for the work that we're doing and also hopefully impact in a positive way, right? Move us in a positive direction as a community. Now, these relationships that we're talking about are also moving us towards more of a transformative relationship, right? There's not, I would not say there's a hierarchy here, right? It's not that transactional relationships that tend to happen in our lives are not valuable or that transformative relationships are much better, but they serve different purposes. And within our work as caring individuals, as educators, right, I think it serves our purposes more to move towards more transformative relationships with colleagues and then also extend that to the communities and families that we work with. And those are relationships where they're more process driven. So there is more opportunity for growth and knowing about each other. There's a modeling and there's mutual interest, which we'll talk a little bit more about. But that mutual interest is the growth and well being of the young people that we're serving. And so let's ground a little bit more as we have these defining concepts around how we're talking about families, how we are approaching collaborative relationships with them. And I want to take some time to reflect into the topic that we're focusing on today. So I want to invite you to pause and reflect on your earliest learning memory. I want you to recall what this moment was and what it felt like. So who was there with you in this moment? Who was it that taught you or gave you the space to explore as a young person? Do you recall where you were? And maybe you can recall the smells or the sight, what it felt like. Let's take a moment. And as you're reflecting, I can share with you that my earliest learning memory happened around a kitchen table, or my grandmother was teaching me, a 3-year-old at the time, how to make tortillas. And it really set me up to recognize the importance of community learning and really built an opportunity for me to have a passion for learning because I was able to explore at that age. For some of us, our earliest learning experience actually took place outside of the school. It happened in an informal education setting and in the most underrated of learning spaces at times, which is our homes. So it's important to acknowledge and appreciate that learning is happening everywhere. And this understanding can really free us all up as educators from the pressure to be that sole person, the holder of the learning, for that young person. And it allows us also to get creative about what is possible when we build with the community surrounding that young person. Many of us have heard the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. And so as we move forward, this is how we frame family and community engagement in this session. We're all working within the broad village that students are a part of to support them as they grow and move towards their self-actualization. And so our roles really have this responsibility to acknowledge that this is a village effort and figure out how we incorporate and invite community in to support our youth as they're under our care. And so it really allows us to, again, maximize our impact and our capacity and really get a broad range of knowledge that we have in our community to really play into what we're already offering. And so hopefully this is a session that allows you to recognize that you've got a lot of people as supporters to build on the work that you're doing. And we connect this to our WISC model because this is about the collaboration between us and our community to surround the young person with as many resources and supports so that they can grow. And so you're familiar, I'm sure, with the WISC model at this point, and that's wonderful, right? Our WISC model that we're leaning on here is created in collaboration with the CDC and the Association for Supervision and Curriculum and other key leaders from school health, public health, and education field. And the WISC model meets the needs of greater emphasis of both the psychosocial and physical environment, as well as the increasing roles of the community agencies and families can play in improving childhood health, behaviors, and development. And so one thing that we notice about the WISC model is that the child is at the center, and the goal is for students to be healthy, safe, engaged, and supported, as well as challenged. And so the blue ring is recognizing that no matter which department or where you sit in the school team or district team, you play a part in creating a culture of wellness. And your role as wellness champions lies in the layer between the child and the staff and services supporting that child. So we're here talking about how policy is coordinated, processes, practices that ensure that the child is supported. And so for our purposes of today, we're going to think about one component of the WISC model, and that is to really allow us to think about the tools and resources that you can bring back to your site. And the component that we're focusing on is family engagement to build a more positive school culture.